Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Fusion Body Studio. Today, Brice and I are having a catch up, and we are going to give some updates about what's happening in the new year with Fusion Body Studio. How are you going today, Brice?
I am so good. We've got so many. Of course, we've got our OG students that are absolutely amazing. They're the foundation of our studio. We've been open for a whole year now, and our students that have been with us since the beginning, we owe them a lot of gratitude for help. Of
Yeah.
course, my nose starts running right when we hit record. We owe them a lot of gratitude for helping us get to where we are today. But we got a lot of new students too.
We do. We do have some new members, which is so exciting.
It's so exciting, and I'm so excited about all the things that we have coming up this month. And I've got our website pulled up. If we want to, do we want to look at like the
Yeah,
new
sure.
courses? And let me see here, because we've just uploaded the first part of our new Ashtanga beginner course.
Yes.
And can let's see here. So this is on the full membership. So this is on tier two because it's a course.
Mhm.
And it's right here, the Ashtanga Yoga beginner. We have a manual as well with us over. So this is not in the exercise. It's in the this is what supports. So at Fusion Body Studio, our whole for Paula and me, I think I can speak for you, Paula, as well when I say this. There are a lot of different like exercise, great, fantastic online fitness boutiques, exercises, on the world. There's so many incredible personal trainers and dancers who've opened up their own online platform. But what Paul and I really want to do is create like an online shala almost.
Mhm.
Like an shala is a school. And that's one of my favorite things about traditional yoga in general is that everything is looked at not as a performance base, but as a school, as a sense of an institute of learning. That's what is so amazing about Fusion Body Studio is that, if you just want the workouts, if all you want to do is come on and just do the exercise membership for 25 a month, super cheap. We have so many classes, so many different types of workouts, so many different teachers up here that you can just do that. But if you do the $40 a month, you get the backbone of the philosophy as well and different courses you can take at your own leisure, right? Like you don't have to go anywhere. You just sit at home and you can retake because they don't disappear once you've taken them. You can retake the courses over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And so that's what's so great about our school here is that for me, exercise is the foundation of spirituality. It is what keeps you in your body. It is what helps you refine your soul. And that's what we're trying to teach is this ancient wisdom. And that's the whole point of exercise for me. Like if you're exercising to beat yourself up, to abuse yourself, then I'm not interested. I'm not interested in that. I
Mhm.
want to help you do the same work, but from a different perspective. And you're never going to be perfect. That's why it's a shala. There's not a graduation process. Like, you're always learning more and more and more and going deeper and deeper and deeper. And I love that we have these courses uploaded because again, you could take the course one year and then go back the next year and take the same course and you're going to pick up on things that you didn't pick up on the year before because you've grown, you've changed,
Yes.
you've become more aware. And it's
Mhm.
subtle. Sometimes you don't realize what awareness you've picked up until you go back and retake a course or read that
Uh,
philosophy book again. And that's why people like me for 30 years now, or 20 years now, Todd is at 30 years, I'm at 20 years. We study the Yoga Sutras once a year, every year, because you pick up on more depth that you didn't pick up on before because you've become more aware. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like with anything that you rewatch or reread, there's always more to it when you've learnt more, and then you start to notice things that you never noticed before because suddenly you have an awareness for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it's amazing to see the growth as well, and how much stronger you've become from doing the regular exercise, and it's really, really great.
And there's two reasons, guys, why exercise is the foundation of spirituality. There's two reasons. One is that the Shakti or the Prakriti, the physical body, isn't just liver, kidney, digestive system, lungs, heart, fascia. It's that, but it's also energetic property, principles and properties within the body, vayus, different vayus. So I always say, Paula, what gets me, and this kind of gets into what we're going to be talking about Ashtanga. This is me putting my tinfoil hat on. So Vinyasa Flow, and we do have a Vinyasa Flow playlist, but that's to help people that are don't know anything about traditional yoga. Vinyasa Flow is not yoga. It's not. It's just not. And that's 99% of the yoga that you see in the Western world. It's not though. It's not a Vinyasa Flow teacher is not a yoga teacher. Sorry, they're not. You have to go to India. You can't take a 200-hour program or a certification workshop and become a yoga teacher. You have to go back to school, totally back to school over in India at an institution that's geared around this. And it takes years, years. It's not 200 hours, it's years. It's like being back at college or university again, where
Mhm.
you're learning Sanskrit, you're learning all these principles. And this also, apart from just the solely practice of Ashtanga, this is where you learn about the energetic principles of the body and like why it's important to have a strong core. It's not just to look good in bathing suits. There is Manipura, there's Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha. These are very important points in the physical body manifested from the energetic body, which connects to the soul or the consciousness that helps bring life into the Shakti.
Mhm.
So I've said this before, Paula, and again, I think Vinyasa Flow kind of was injected into our society to confuse us so we don't understand traditional yoga, so that we become further separated. Because in my opinion, Vinyasa Flow kind of separates you more from the soul. It doesn't actually help you find the soul. And why that is because how many Vinyasa Flow teachers don't even know what a bandha is? And if
Very
you are
true.
talking about chakras, I hate to break it to you, but if you don't know what bandhas are, then you don't need to be even worried about the chakras because they don't exist. If your bandhas are not strong, then there's no power. It's like a windmill,
Mhm.
right? It's powered by air or what's it called? The water wheel.
Yeah.
My mind's gone blank. That's powered. There's a power. So you think about these chakras that are spinning energy, but if you have no energy to actually allow them to spin, they're going to go into atrophy, just like a
Mhm.
muscle, and
Yeah. And
eventually
then they just
become
get full of gunk and they're not functioning properly.
that you just go into dead weight, basically.
Mhm.
And so these bandhas, so your strong core is a strong Uddiyana bandha,
Mhm.
a strong perineum, a lower pelvic floor, and that pulls the energy up. So that's the first thing. Second thing goes even deeper than that. And we talked about this in our last group call about the ego death and
Yes.
the mind. And when you're going to a class to be comfortable, so if you're going to a yoga class to find comfort, then you're not practicing yoga. If you can't hold a plank position for a minute solid plank, but
Mhm.
you've been practicing yoga for a while, then you haven't been practicing yoga.
Right.
There's a niyama called tapas, and I know people think here in the West, that's a Spanish word for appetizer, but it's actually a Sanskrit word for heat. It's like focused heat.
Mhm.
And so if you're not sweating in your exercise, then you're not exercising. You're just not, because that sweat is what's engaging the life force in the body, right? That's the pranic response.
Mhm.
And we've gotten so, Sergey Monast, I've been covering Sergey Monast on my channel. He talks about that there was a conspiracy to make us entitled, to make us lazy, and to think that that was right, that was correct. So that we're all of a sudden we think we're breakable
Mhm.
and that it's bad to be uncomfortable, especially in the Western world. And there's nothing wrong with being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
That's where
Well, I
growth
mean,
happens.
I guess even if you think about 100 years ago, majority of people were living on a more kind of farm-based kind of
Mhm.
property, and people were working hard all day long,
Yeah,
farming and toiling and looking after the animals and feeding them, and that's hard work. And you are pushed to different limits doing that kind of work because you're trying to achieve different goals. And then when we have just slowly over the years become sitting more at a desk all day long, you know, not that everybody does that. There are plenty of people that still do very physical kind of work, but that's
yeah,
what tends to happen is that we just start to get very comfortable and we don't realize how much we are just not moving our bodies anymore in the way we used to. And it doesn't even always have to be in very difficult ways. I really like to think about, like, when I watch I forget what the show is called now, but it's on Netflix, and it's about the 5 zones, or the 5 blue zones, the blue zones, that's right. And it's talking about the different areas in the world where people are living to over 100 years of age. And you'll find that there's a lot of commonalities um, in those different groups of people that are living so long, and a lot of them are community and feeling like they have a life purpose. And a lot of them will be eating more plant-based food rather than, or if they do have meat, it's more of like a kind of like garnish on top, not the main portion of the
Right.
meal. And also they're moving their bodies so much more. And so, like, for example, with the Japanese people who get up and sit down several times a day, they sit on the floor to eat their meal because they're sitting
Yeah.
at low tables.
Same as India. You sit on the floor
Yes.
to eat. You sit on the floor for everything.
That's right. So when you're
Yeah.
constantly getting up and down all the time, you don't realize that you're working your body by doing that. And
Yeah.
you're
Your
making your body
hips. Yeah.
strong, and you're keeping
Yeah.
your body healthy by doing that. And the problem is that in Western society, we just get so used to just sitting around on a couch all day. And it's not until we have to actually get onto the floor, and then we're like, oh my God, I'm getting old. I can't get off the floor. And that's a problem because we don't want to be like that, especially as we're getting older. We want to be able to get on the floor and do things on the floor. We want to be able to spend time with our grandchildren or our pets or whatever it is. It shouldn't be a difficulty. And I love that about the different communities that are living like that every day. It's just, and they spend a lot of time in the garden, and they're squatting in the garden, and they're weeding and doing things like that. And so it's just what is a part of everyday life for them is out of the ordinary for us. And it kind of just makes you think, well, what are we doing wrong in society over here that we are not living like that?
Well, we're entitled. We think that
Yeah.
just because we get a little uncomfortable out of breath that something is wrong and that nothing is wrong. Your body is responding properly to what you're asking it to do. When your heart rate raises,
Yes.
your heart is then working hard to get blood to it's raising that heart pump to match the blood pressure so that your muscles can receive blood. And when your muscles receive that blood from the heart, it's flushing out the muscles. So it's
Yes.
not only making the muscles stronger, you can't, that's what being sore is. Every time you work out, that's not where healing is happening. That's where destruction is happening. You're ripping your muscles apart and then they build back. That's why you're sore, is they're building back stronger. And we want that. Being sore is a really good thing. You want to be sore. Like that means your body is responding properly to the work that you're doing. And
Yeah.
yes, you can continue to work out when you're sore. I'm coming up on my 20th anniversary. February 3rd will be my 20-year anniversary. I have been sore for literally 20 years.
Mhm.
Yesterday morning, I got up early, like I always do. At 3:45, I got up and I did my practice before I went and taught yesterday. And Todd got up after I was in the middle of my practice, and I was so sore yesterday that I started laughing in the middle of my practice, but I kept going and I finished
Mhm.
because that's what you do. You finish it. It's okay to be sore. And I also think too, what's happened with this entitlement and laziness, Paula, and we spoke about this again with our students on our last weekend when we did our first call of January. You have the Shiva and the Shakti, you have the Purusha and Prakriti. And this is where 99% of spirituality gets it wrong. The ego is the false sense of self. So what is that? When I say ego, I'm not talking about someone who has an ego. It's different.
Mhm.
Brice is my soul's ego. Paula is Paula's soul's ego. This body, this life, even though it's the greatest tool we have to finding our soul, it's still not the soul. It's the tool that's used to polish the soul. And so a lot of people get stuck in their ego. They get stuck in this false sense of self. The lowercase, if we look at the self, the identity of Brice would be the lowercase s,
Mhm.
where the soul would be the uppercase S. Brice does not come with me when I die. Paula does not go with her when she dies.
Yeah.
The soul moves on Paula returns to the earth, Brice returns to the earth.
Mhm.
And that when we've spent our whole lives believing that this identity is our forever identity, and then we have to accept that it's not, we go through an ego death.
Yeah.
And it's painful and it happens, but it's part of the process. So then once you've gone through it, life becomes more fun because this too shall pass.
Mhm.
And you start to appreciate your body even more because it's giving you an experience. And so what starts to happen in exercise, Paula, when we get uncomfortable, when things start to hurt, and when, as Todd always says, the point is to get miserable. Like if you're not exercising to the point of misery, then you're not exercising. You're not doing it for spiritual reasons. When you get to that point where you're miserable, where everything in your body is screaming for you to stop, that's when you've hit the spiritual practice. That's when you've hit the meditation. That's it. It's not when it's easy. It's not when it's fun. It's when it's hard. That's when you're in meditation. But you keep going anyway. You just keep going. It's like when we do these long hiking trails. The big one we do, which is like 10 miles that we've been doing, the last 2 miles is completely up a mountain. And by that point, you are, what is 10 miles in kilometers? So I give Paula, I mean, it's a lot. Let's see, because a 10K is 6 miles. So, okay, hold on 1 second. For the last 2 miles, you're facing uphill and you're already 10 miles, 2 kilometers. So that's 16K.
Wow.
16K. I'm about to do a 12 mile. So that's probably like 18K or maybe 17K I'm about to do in a few weeks. So when you get to the end, those last 2 miles, straight uphill, you're basically climbing up a mountain to get to you're already exhausted, you're sweaty, you're on the verge of tears because you just want to be at your car, but you have no choice but to go
Mhm.
up there's no other way but out to go up that steep hill. And last time we were doing it, Todd was like, this is where the spirituality comes in because we just have to be miserable. We can stand here and stare at those 2 miles for as long as we want, but it's not going to change the fact that we have to climb this mountain to get out.
Mhm.
And in that misery, when you're on the verge of tears and you're cursing your life and you keep going anyway, that's where the breakthrough happens. So you start to realize, and Allison Mack, who was originally, she was in the NXIVM. She just did a podcast talking about how she spent years in prison and now, but she was a famous celebrity before. And she said, regardless of whether I'm sitting in a prison cell or at a resort in Morocco, I'm still me. I'm still there. And
Mhm.
that's the observation of the soul, right? So even in misery, can you observe? Can you be the watcher instead of clinging to your thoughts as real? I'm miserable. This sucks. I'm tired. Can you observe that misery, allow that misery to be here and go forward anyway? Because that's when you start to tap into the soul. The misery of the body isn't the soul. The
Mhm.
soul's fine regardless. It's still just the soul. Whether you're sunbathing on the beach or climbing up a mountain, it's the body that's experiencing the reaction, not the soul.
Mhm.
And so that gets us into Ashtanga Yoga
Yes.
and the real practice of yoga. And we are going to be doing, guys, we just released the first part of the beginner course of Ashtanga Yoga. And I've said this over and over again on what date is it? So this upcoming Friday, we're going to be doing another Vedic chanting course with Todd. And the 23rd, we're going to do an Ashtanga sit down. And we're going to talk about it for a while because what I've noticed, Paula, we've talked about that, is that the world has done such a good job of convincing people that Vinyasa flow is yoga, that they come to Ashtanga carrying their Vinyasa flow bad habits and they end up getting injured. They end up like totally throwing themselves out of whack because you literally have to forget everything you've been taught in Vinyasa flow. You have to forget it in order to be able to practice Ashtanga Yoga. Does that make sense? I don't
Yeah.
know if there's anything you want to
Because
add
it's
or
it's just a very, very different way of doing things, isn't it?
yeah. Well, I would say it is the way of actually doing it. Like this is the actual Ashtanga Yoga is the Yoga Karanta. It is the yoga that's been passed down for thousands of years.
Hmm.
Vinyasa flow is an invention of the Western world from
Hmm.
the 20th century.
There's quite a lot of different schools of yoga, though, isn't there?
There's three.
Ah, okay, three. I thought there was
That's
more.
it.
Mhm.
Three.
Okay.
Ashtanga, Iyengar, Sivananda. Those are the three legitimate yogas. Anything else is fake. It's invented.
Right.
So yin yoga, fake. Vinyasa flow, fake. Kundalini Yogi Bhajan, fake. Good God, they have a documentary on that man now. It's all
Mhm.
fake. Kundalini's in all yoga. There's
So
not a special.
what would be the dangers of practicing any of the fake yogas, would
Oh,
you
you
say?
you go crazy. You get stuck in the ego. You end up having to come back and do this life again because you're
Okay.
too caught in your ego. You haven't burned your karma.
So you don't think there's like any benefits at all from doing the different
Personally, no. Now, the vinyasa flows that we've put on our school, I used to call them like what, stretch and strength, like more
Yes.
movement therapy. We
Yeah.
changed the name to vinyasa flow just for marketing purposes, just to be honest, because because I'm doing it more movement therapy than what would be vinyasa flow.
Uh-huh.
But a true vinyasa flow, contemporary yoga, I don't see any. The only benefit vinyasa flow can offer people is a gateway into potentially, because I that's the first yoga I ever practiced because it was all I knew. And
Hmm.
I didn't last that long in Vinyasa flow though. Here's why. Because I started to read the Yoga Sutras. I was curious. I started practicing the Vinyasa flow. I was curious about, I knew there was a deeper philosophy because I'm not
Yeah.
stupid. I know yoga is an old ancient, it's like martial arts. And so I I'm nosy, right? Like that's why I read the Book of Mormon all those years ago, because I'm nosy and I want to know, I just want to know things.
Yeah.
And I got my first copy of the Yoga Sutras and I started reading it. And I'm also consider myself to be quite smart. I'm the master of common sense. And I was reading the sutras for the
Mhm.
first time, and the very first time I read them, I was like, hang on, shut the front door. Like, this is not what we're doing in these classes. What we're doing in these classes is actually completely counter to what this Patanjali dude is writing. At that point, I didn't know who Patanjali was. I didn't know how old the Yoga Sutras were. I just bought a copy and read it for myself.
Right. Hmm.
And I started to get very confused because I was like, is it just me? Like, am I gaslighting myself? Like, what's happening here? Because what we'll go to these vinyasa flow classes, and I would hear the teachers say, like, get comfortable. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. But that's not what Patanjali said in the book that I read about yoga. Like, you guys talk about Patanjali being like the creator of yoga or whatever, but like this is me in my 20s, like 20 years ago, being like, but this dude you keep talking about, like, he said something totally different.
Right.
I have it highlighted. Like he said something, he said that like we have to get uncomfortable and like there is sweat involved and like he's talking about like this mind stuff and I didn't really understand what that meant fully at that time, but I got that he was talking about challenging the mind. I didn't quite understand at that time that it meant challenging the ego.
Right.
But I had been an athlete prior to that. I had been a long distance runner, which let's just be, because I'm not competitive. So looking back, I know that I was really attracted to cross country running, long distance running, because I was attracted to meditation, right? Because
Right.
meditation is not seated. That's another thing. Nowhere, unless you're in an ashram, will you see seated meditation. Meditation in the truest form of the old scriptures is exercise
Right.
because it's about controlling the mind and challenging the mind, not letting the mind wander off into daydreams.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is good to do a little bit of meditation to kind of quieten the mind because I mean, we promote after doing the workout that we promote doing
After,
a
and
post workout
that's
meditation.
integration. So that would be
Yeah.
considered an integration process.
Uh-huh.
So that's after. But if you're not exercising before you do 5 minutes of integration, you're just feeding the ego. You're guaranteeing yourself a ticket back to third density
Hmm.
is all you're doing. You're guaranteeing yourself a ride back to this planet. Again, you're not going to move forward. There's just no way because you can't passively move through your karma. You just can't.
Hmm.
There has to be an active deconstruction in order for you to rebuild and move forward into fourth density. So the way we set it up is the way we do it in India. We do full on 2 hours worth of a full on exercise where you're miserable and shaking and sweating. And then you lay on your mat and allow it to integrate to bring the nervous
Yeah.
system back down
Which I
because
love. I mean, I feel
yeah,
it just feels so amazing after you've done the workout to just yeah, just breathe and just let it all come down. And I do agree, like I agree that, you do have to push yourself to get results. I mean, if with the muscle, if you're not breaking down the muscle and pushing yourself past your limit, then of course you're not going to get any stronger, because you have to just go past that point of being, you have to get past comfortable to, in order to strengthen the muscle, to break it down first. I mean, it's like I went to the gym this morning and did my workout with Jason, and it's good. And he just keeps encouraging to just push that little bit further, to just get that little bit more, so that you can go past where you're comfortable. And because that's where the muscle breaks down, and then it can repair, and then you become stronger. Because if you're just doing it all the time, something that just feels easy, well, then it's just you're not going to get any results.
You're a spinning wheel in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going anywhere. You're not changing anything. You're still letting the ego dictate the soul. And we need to make it the other way around, where the soul is now dictated. The soul is what created. The soul is the Shiva. It created the Shakti. The soul is what created your body, created your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so the soul needs to be now in control of the experience of the ego, not the other way around. And
Yeah,
that's
and
why you have to have a, go ahead,
I was
sorry.
just going to say, I feel like for me, I find the concept that, and reminding myself that life is just an illusion, actually very helpful. I know that for some people, like I was explaining this to my daughter, and she was just like, that's kind of really scary, mum. But for me, I find it quite comforting, because it just kind of think, well, it's like I'm in a movie, or I'm in a video game, and this is just for right now. But I know that my soul is okay in
Oh yeah,
everything
your
I'm
soul's always
experiencing
going to be
here.
okay.
Yeah, it's just part of
Yeah.
the movie. It's just part of the game. And then, it'll pass. And I find it quite helpful to get through those challenging times, remembering that this is all just part of that.
It's row, row, row your boat.
Yeah.
That's what gently down the stream, merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream.
Yeah. So true. So true.
Your soul has things it wants to work on, things it wants to experience. In the Emerald Tablets, Thoth says you only know life because you know death. When you're
Hmm.
just your soul, you don't have death, and so you don't know life. So you come down into these situations that create
Experience that.
friction. We
Yeah.
have polarity is always a part of it because it creates an opposing force, and opposing force is what creates friction.
Hmm.
Friction creates what? Light, a spark of light. Right? And in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali uses a word called prativa. That's a Sanskrit word that means a flash of illumination. What's illumination? It's light. So that flash, that friction of illumination, when you're in that moment staring up the last 2 miles of a long hike and you realize like you just got to do it, that flash of illumination, or you realize that the more miserable you are, the more your soul has a chance to take control of the reins.
Hmm.
In Sri Swami Satchitananda's commentary on the Yoga Sutras, he says, one thing I love is that the more you start to figure out that your body is just a Shakti, it's not your soul. A good exercise is to say, like, when you're hungry, say, my body is hungry.
Hmm.
My body is tired. My body is frustrated. My body wants to quit. So you start to realize that this simulated experience is not, it's just an experience of the ride. It's not your soul.
Hmm.
And we see that so many people go on these like healing journeys and they do everything they can to avoid actually healing, which is doing exercise. They go on this roundabout crazy ride. They spend all this money on doing all these like things and it's like literally just go to a yoga shala. Like that's literally, and you spend all this money doing all these crazy things to avoid the inevitable. But if you had just done the inevitable to begin with, you would have saved money and you would have gotten to your destination a lot quicker. One of my favorite sayings is, it doesn't matter how fast you're going if you're going in the wrong direction.
Hmm.
Likewise, doesn't matter how slow you're going when you're going in the right direction.
Hmm.
So all these people are running these quick, not marathons, but these sprints to get to the wrong destination. How many people go to tarot card readers thinking that's going to heal you? No, that's just Prakriti. That's just Prakriti. Or we talked about past lives. Like that's just Prakriti. Nothing from the past life is going to give you information about your soul. It's just giving you information about the rides you took.
Hmm.
It's still just spinning around in circles in the cul-de-sac where you're just spinning in circles chasing your tail. Why don't we just come out of that? Why don't we just turn around and come out of that cul-de-sac. Let's drive the car out of the cul-de-sac where we can actually get to the soul. That's why there's a reason why. And one thing, God has set up this world, this game for our soul to be able to refine itself, to polish itself. That's why Ram Dass calls one of his books polishing the mirror, right?
Mhm.
It's this that you're polishing, not a past life, not it's this. And there's a reason why we don't remember because we don't, it's not important. That's not because remembering is just prakriti. That's all it is prakriti. All these people obsessed with like star seeds. I'm a star seed. You're not. Doesn't fucking matter because this is all prakriti. It's all part of it's all, our Shakespeare said, the world is nothing but a stage. All the men and women are merely actors. And I'm a white girl from Georgia in this life. Okay, last life I might have been a black man in Africa. And I'm on the Superman ride this life. Last night it might have been on the lazy river.
Mhm.
And it's all rides in the same park. Right? And so it is kind of refreshing when you get to that point, and I was telling you this, Paula, in India, because the all of Hinduism does recognize past lives as legitimate, but
Mhm.
they don't talk about it. Not once have I heard my teacher talk about past lives. In fact, if I went to my teacher and was like, I think I'm struggling in Kapotasana because in a past life I had my, body chopped in half, he'd be like, go home, think about what you just told me, and don't come back until you get rid of that thought. Like that's just your mind making up an excuse. The mind is really good at the mind is very
Yeah.
clever at making up excuses.
Yes, it definitely is. Hmm.
So, I've used Kapotasana because it's a deep back bend in second series, and that's one a lot of people I struggled with it when I first started doing it. That's a lot of people struggle with it. So you
Right.
try to come up with all these excuses
Hmm.
as to why this is hard for you, and it doesn't actually matter. The point is it's hard.
Yeah.
And that's what we work on because the karma is being experienced in the back bend
Hmm.
in this life.
But as you build up your muscle strength, then you get better at being able to do all of these kind of difficult
And
positions.
you break through. You start to
Mhm.
realize I don't need the story of something that happened to me that may or may not have happened to me in the past. All I need to do is work in the here now
Mhm.
and focus on the issue at hand in the here now. And the issue at hand is Kapotasana.
Mhm.
That's it. And then, yeah, the more you do it, the more you break open that attachment to the story and ignore it, the more you have a breakthrough and the more you start to release and the muscles start to reshape themselves and the body starts to react
Mhm.
to what you've released and get
So,
stronger.
how would you say that Ashtanga, how would you differentiate that to the other two different types of yogas, the main
So
one?
Ashtanga and Iyengar are more closely related.
Okay.
KPJAYI and Sri Joyce were both students of Krishnamacharya,
Mhm.
who is the main dude, the main grandfather of modern day yoga. So this comes from parampara. So this is something that the Western world knows nothing about. And if they knew about parampara, Vinyasa Flow and the Yoga Alliance would go out of business. So basically what happened,
Right.
according to my teacher in India before he passed away, is when yoga started to make us started to kind of bleed into the Western world. It kind of started at the beginning of the 20th century,
Mhm.
Yoganandas, those people, but it really got kind of more popular in the 1960s, 1970s.
Right.
In fact, if you look at pictures of like Woodstock, they have people practicing yoga. It's Ashtanga. They're
Oh,
lined up
wow.
and they're doing Ashtanga. So this
Wow.
was the practice that was brought to the Western world was traditional yoga.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden you have I believe it was the 90s. I might not be correct on the time, maybe in the early 2000s. You have this company that was created called the Yoga Alliance. And there has been huge, huge, huge issues with this. Like maybe 10 years ago, there was a huge call out to boycott the Yoga Alliance for yoga people to boycott it. My teacher in India, as well as other Param gurus, and all Param guru means is like a head teacher of a school.
Okay.
This gets us back to parampara. That's a long story to get back to parampara. Or parampara, it said both ways. The Yoga Alliance decided, as my teacher said, the Yoga Alliance, basically, we have a term today called cultural appropriation. That's
Mhm.
what the Yoga Alliance did. So the Yoga Alliance basically said, All these people came over from India that had been studying with Sri Joyce or BKSI. They came over to the United States. They started teaching traditional yoga. The Yoga Alliance decided to was a company created to capitalize on yoga,
Yeah.
basically told India, we don't need you anymore. We got this. Created Vinyasa Flow, basically slapped India across the face and
Right.
said that they're going to be the holders of who gets to teach and who doesn't get to teach. We're going to run these teacher training courses, which are only 200 hours, which what the fuck? Excuse my language, but like 200, do not go to somebody ever who's only had 200 hours of training in anything.
Hmm.
That's not enough time. That's not enough time.
No, we're not
And
with how
so
complex it is. It's so much to
you're,
it.
you're putting your life in danger. You're
It's
putting
it's
your
like
mind in danger.
it's like a doctor. I mean, you wouldn't go to a neurosurgeon that's had 200 hours of training.
No, no, it's laughable. The common sense, like I know common sense ain't so common, but the common sense of it all, like why would you ever go to somebody who's only done a 200-hour teacher training? Like that is bonkers. Like
Well, I
they're
think
gonna hurt
because
you.
we just don't know over here that that yoga is like that. We're so like, we just think it's like kind of like running, you can just get put on a pair of sneakers and just go running. You don't really have to learn so much about it. And it's we don't realize that yoga, like traditional yoga, is equivalent to becoming a doctor. There is so, I mean, before I met you and learned everything I've learned from you, I had no idea how complex it was and how important it was to understand, the ancient language, and to understand how everything fits in, and the way the body works and the anatomy and all the muscles, and how important it is to have a strong foundation before you start doing these different movements. I mean, there's so much to it.
There's
But
so much to it.
I had no idea, because over here we're just taught, oh, yoga's just doing some stretching. That's all. It's
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 not
not,
stretching.
yeah.
And actually, we say that if a teacher tells you, if you go into a yoga class and a teacher is talking about flexibility, don't ever go back to that class because yoga is not about flexibility, it's about strength.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
only reason why you're ever going to get your leg behind your head is because your perineum, your lower pelvic floor, and your core is strong. Like this is just, and this is, it's flexibility without strength is injury waiting to happen.
Mhm.
In fact, for me as a teacher, when I get students that come through the door who are super flexible, they're just very kappa and they're very flexible just in general. I panic because they're the ones that are the most likely to get injured. But the people that I come in are super tight but strong. I can work with them. They end up going further in the practice than people who are naturally flexible. We have to pull back the naturally flexible people to make sure they get strong enough to support their flexibility. And so that takes longer. But the people who are naturally stronger, they can take more, their body can take more pushing and pulling. Yeah, and it is, there's so much to this, guys. And so an older teacher, Todd and this older teacher did a podcast together like a few months back, and she equated it, she's over in Greece, she equated it to like what I have would be considered to a master's degree. So bachelor's would be what you get from a four-year university, and then the master's program, I would have what's the equivalent of a master's degree.
Yeah.
All authorized teachers are the same. It would be like you're going to someone who has a master's, someone who is certified. Now, this isn't certified like Yoga Alliance certified. Don't get that twisted. Certified through traditional yoga, there's only 50. There's 7 billion people in the world. Only 50 people carry certification. You have to have lived in India for like 10 years and gotten through like fourth series, which most people don't ever get to, right? That would be considered a PhD, someone who has a PhD. So you're absolutely correct. We have to learn Sanskrit. We have to be able to understand Sanskrit. When I teach my students, if you go to a yoga teacher and they use the English equivalent, like the translations to poses, do you know what that's doing to your mind? You are putting yourself in a situation where you're getting more mind scrambled. Everything. So think about like modern day medicine. Modern day medicine, they take a little bit of poison
Mhm.
to help your body react in order to heal itself. That's what happens in Ayurveda too, including yoga, because Patanjali also was the father of Ayurveda too. So we're bringing the two together.
Mhm.
So what are the three elements of life according to our Ayurveda? Breath, food, and vibration.
Mhm.
What is speaking? Vibration.
Yes.
So if you have Utkatasana and the teacher's calling it chair pose, well, first of all, that's not the translation of Utkatasana, is not chair pose. And that's why we see people doing chair pose wrong in Vinyasa flow, where they sit back and their arms, chair pose, it translates to little lightning bolt. So in traditional, the arms, hands are together, head is way back, and there's a slight curve in the back and a slight bend to the knees. So it looks like a zigzag, not like a chair. So by mistranslation, we've already fucked the whole thing up. We're
Wow.
not engaging the body properly for the vayus, for the chakras, for the bandhas, what we're asking of the mind, of the dristi, of the thumb, where people, we see this a lot in Vinyasa flow where people do their hands like they do like I heard somebody once call it church hands because here in the South, like churches, they, happy, happy, clappy. Like, and it's very irresponsible because when you're doing this kind of stuff with your hands in Vinyasa flow, you're losing energy that you don't need to be giving away.
Right.
Now let's think about this. Now you do Reiki, Paula.
Mhm.
There's different hand positions, right, for Reiki because you're dealing with pranic energy.
Mhm.
So why would that be any different in Ashtanga when you're also, or in yoga, when you're also dealing with pranic energy?
Mhm.
It's like giving yourself Reiki.
Yeah.
So why would you be tossing out energy by doing your hands in a weird way when you need to be pulling that energy in?
Yeah.
Hatha, sun, moon, is balancing upon a prana. So if you're doing your hands like this or doing this bullshit they do in Ashtanga and Vinyasa flow, or then you are completely deregulating your pranic energy. And the aponic is starting to take over because you're deregulating pranic. So what is aponic energy? That's moon energy. So that's creating more laziness, more self-entitlement,
Right.
more addiction to comfort.
Mhm.
Because the pranic, the rising energy is the sweat, the intensity. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it's simple things like that that need that seem really small, like they shouldn't matter, but
But
make
wow.
the devil is in the details. So in
Yes.
Ashtanga, when in traditional yoga, our fingers are always together. Our hands are like paddles as we move through the practice.
Yep. Hmm.
We're never doing this stuff. It's always together like this. When we're coming up, the hands are never separated, like you see in some vinyasa flows. You're always pulling the palms together in like Virabhadrasana A, what people say Warrior One, because you're holding the energy in. If you separate your
Right.
hands, you're releasing energy. So postures where the hands are separated, like Virabhadrasana B, fingers are always together. They're not out, they're together, out to the side. You're releasing a slight bit of energy, but you're also controlling it. So if people watching right now, if you actually pull your fingers together and cup your hands like a paddle, you'll feel a control. You automatically start to feel a
Yes.
control of energy. Yeah?
Wow.
This stuff is vitally important. When you
Yep.
take a forward fold, when you take the full extension, you're taking the bind. So like Paschimottanasana, seated forward fold, legs are together, pulling the perineum up, flexing your feet because that's contracting the muscles, which is pulling energy up the leg. When
Hmm.
you grip around the foot, you're gripping your left wrist with your right hand and you're making a fist. You're
Yep.
not opening the hand. They used to open it, but now they've closed it to hold more energy. You close the fist. And you never, I laugh with my students, you only bring the hands all the way to the floor for Instagram to make it look pretty. But in practice, you pull at the ball of the foot because reflexology. Guess what's at the ball of the foot? Your respiratory system.
Right.
So you're connecting to the breath. You're pushing into the foot, which connects to the lungs. What is prana? That is pranayama that's connected to the inhale and the exhale.
Hmm.
Exhale is aponic, inhale is pranic. So once again, you're working on something way deeper than you're actually aware of. And that's my responsibility as a teacher. So when I have a beginner come in, telling a beginner all of this stuff is going to be overwhelming. So my job as a teacher is to say, hey, clasp and grab at your upper foot. And then over time, as the practice unfolds deeper, they're going to start to understand these little nuances that seem, again, if you're just watching someone practice, they seem like it's just nitpicking, but it's not. It's actually saving you. It's actually giving you the proper balance to regulate your system. We
Yeah.
also have poses that are aponic and pranic specifically. So as Todd said in one of our Ashtanga classes, our sun salutation classes last year, a few weeks ago, he talks about the placement of the lower. There's three placements throughout all of yoga postures that you're really going to be in. The lower ribs coming into the hips, so pulling them in, the lower ribs pulling away from the hips, and neutral. So what is this? Pulling into the hip is aponic, pulling away from the hips is pranic, and neutral is neutral.
Mhm.
So in knowing that placement with the ribs and the hips, we can figure out which postures are pranic and which postures are aponic.
Right.
So what is structured, especially in like primary series, because that's another thing with Ashtanga Yoga, I'm not choreographing it. There are 6 different series in Ashtanga Yoga, and there are most authorized teachers have practiced halfway through third. That's advanced series A. Most people might not even finish primary in their life because it's so complicated. You really have to work it and master it in order to move on to the next series,
Yeah.
right? So when we look at the way this is structured in Ashtanga Yoga, we have a pranic posture, an aponic posture, neutral.
Mhm.
Pranic, aponic, neutral. Pranic, aponic, neutral. That is how we are moving step by step through primary series.
Right.
Now, primary series alone takes about 10 years to master. So a student does not learn primary series in the first day. It takes so many years to collect all those postures, right? So
Mhm.
what do? We teach students, we start with the sun salutations and the foundational sequencing, which starts all 6 series. The last posture of the foundational sequence, actually, can I share screen? I can share screen, can I?
Yeah.
I'm going to show the manual just so you guys can see this. We're going to go all the way down. This is on our course as well. So I'm not going to go through the manual, but I'm going to go here to the list. This is primary series. So the fundamental sequencing, Surya Namaskar, that's the sun salutations, that can be done by itself
Yes.
because it ends neutrally in Samasthiti. Then we have Padangusthasana, Padahastasana, Uttita Trikonasana, Atita Parsvakonasana, Prasarita Padottanasana, and Parsvottanasana. Parsvottanasana number 7 is a neutral posture. Okay, that's what ends the fundamental sequence. So for a beginner, for the first month, that's all they're working on is 1 through 7. Repetitively, repetitively, repetitively. And then after that is really, they're really good. They know it. Their body knows it. They're starting to refine it. Then we introduce the first posture of primary series and we go all the way down to number 12. So Uttita Hasta Padangusthasana is the first posture of primary series. Now between Virabhadrasana and Paschimottanasana, you have Dandasana, which is like Samastitihi, so that's a neutral pose. So we stop you. The next would be Janu A would be the next neutral. That's quarter primary series. Next would be Navasana, which is right here, number 18. The
Mhm.
next would be Upavishta which is 25. And then after that, you just finish the practice, right? So we stop students at a neutral posture. Why is that? Because if we stopped a student on a ponic posture or an aponic posture, then we would be having that student leave the Mysore room crazy making in the mind.
Yeah.
Now, how many Vinyasa flow teachers know this?
I don't imagine any.
None of them know this. I can guarantee you, none of them know this. So if you're taking Vinyasa flow, I know this, not to toot my own horn. So in our movement classes, I make sure that
Yes.
we are ending in a neutral place. I'm designing them around this structure, even
Yeah.
though it's not Ashtanga. I'm structure. I
No, but
structure the
and
bar classes.
I felt that because I know when I'm doing the classes, I always feel so good afterwards because it feels complete, you know?
Yes,
Hmm.
that's what we're doing. That's every single workout I've taken because what Ashtanga has taught me is that you don't necessarily have to do Ashtanga, but you need to have the template of Ashtanga in
Yeah.
order to make sure energetically what is supposed to happen is happening.
Hmm.
And that's what my 20 years in my being authorized, I've taken my knowledge of this and I've put it in other exercises as well. Because that's all really yoga asana is exercise. That's it,
Yeah.
right? And so if you're going, that's why I'm saying it's very dangerous. Like sometimes vinyasa flow can be the gateway, like it was for me, to finding traditional stuff. But
Hmm.
if all you're doing is vinyasa flow, you're putting yourself in harm's way. You're putting your family in harm's way. You're putting people that spend time with you in harm's way. If you notice you're starting to become unhinged, Now there is going to be with Ashtanga, you are going to have like crying spells. You're going to feel the ego death, but it's different from being like uncontrollably crying because you're releasing and being unhinged. There's a huge difference between the two energetically. And
Yeah.
so this is why it is so important. We also have the count. So in traditional yoga, nobody is playing music in traditional yoga. Now we use music in like the bar classes because the structure of bar is based around dance. And so music becomes a part of the beat.
Hmm.
Whereas in Ashtanga, the beat is the count. And the reason why this is, so we look at like the bar practice, we're looking at depending on, so with the bar practice, we're starting very chronically, right? With the cardiovascular work. And then we kind of level down to more aponic, which is the bar work where we're really going slow and pulsing and doing a lot of squats. And then we end neutrally with deep, deep stabilizing stretching. Yeah. So it's more with bar, it's more of bigger chunks of prana upon a neutral, whereas in yoga, it's smaller chunks, right? But it's still the same template. So we have the music has to change in bar because it is based around dance, depending on the slowness of what we're trying to do. Is it a pranic expression of rising energy and or an aponic expression of lowering the energy back? So that's why the beat matters in bar, but the beat also matters in Ashtanga, but it comes off of the count. The count stays the same. There's no change in BPMs in the practice. And so if you go to a lead, so in Ashtanga, lead classes are the most advanced. You don't go to lead. Most shalas, Ashtanga shalas, will not let a beginner into a lead class. You have to be invited to a lead class. Why is that? Because in a lead class, there's no workshopping of postures. So we do one lead class a week. That's on Fridays. It's lead primary series. And so you'll call the students to Samasitihi, you'll do the opening chant, and then all you'll do is say, Ekam inhale, Dwe exhale, Trini inhale, head up, Chatwari exhale, jump back, Pancha inhale, Shot exhale. Now, Paula, just me doing that, do you know what to do physically by me just counting?
Yeah, I can see the sun salutations going through my
Yes, yeah, because you've been practicing, but if you had
yeah.
never done a sun salutation, would you know what to do?
Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. So that is why lead classes, because we're
Of
again
course,
looking
you
at
just
active
don't. Yeah.
meditation,
Hmm.
right? So when a teacher stops the class to workshop a posture, says, catch the right foot, look up, pull your belly in, which we do in beginner courses. But in a lead class, if we were to
You
do
need to
that, that would
know.
stop the meditation.
Hmm.
So we're keeping the beat in a lead class of that count.
Hmm.
Now, Mysore style is where it's all levels. And that's where you come into the Shala because it is a set series. So like AYA, Ashtanga Yoga Atlanta, we open at, that's where Todd is right now. He leaves, we're open around 5. Some students get there at like 4:30. Some of our older students that know what they're doing, they have a key. They have to come in earlier for work. Todd lets them come in early. He comes in. Sometimes they're already practicing or the assistants might be already practicing, and then he starts teaching. So technically like 5, and then it closes at 8 a.m. So you come anytime during that time period, just giving yourself enough time to practice, and the teacher works with you one-on-one
Hmm.
in the room, right? So that is, and I know we have some video of Mysore in Mysore, India, Mysore class. And that then becomes singular meditation. So lead class becomes collective meditation where the whole class is moving together at the same beat, same breath. And then Mysore becomes independent because the room is quiet in the Mysore room. You hear breathing, you hear thunks and maybe some F-bombs being dropped because it's hard. And you hear the teacher talking to students, and the teacher might yell across the room, like, John, what pot, where are you? Hold on, I'll be right there to help you. Like you might see that. And there's assistants that help as well, but it's also very quiet. You just hear a lot of breathing. It's usually really hot in a Mysore room. It's not hot yoga, but usually it is pretty sweaty because so many bodies are moving.
Yeah.
And because of the structure of Mysore, you can't cheat. And teachers will make sure that you are really developing strength, that you're properly jumping back, that they work with you on that so that you are getting stronger and stronger and stronger. You walk into a Mysore room and you'll see a room full of muscle, basically. Very refined. Like I know we were texting, you said the pretty yoga, and my experience, I think Vinyasa flow is lazy. Like it's not pretty to me. Because I see where they're cheating,
Mm,
right? Whereas you look
yeah.
at an Ashtanga person and their ability to physically, which is just normal in Ashtanga. It's not, you are, by the time you get to that point, you've been so humbled that you don't, you know, and it's normal. Like when you got everybody in the room doing forward and back hamstrings, it becomes
Yeah, you don't feel
normal.
special. You just feel like, well, we're all doing it. We're all in the same boat. So, yeah.
But what does that do psychologically too? Let's think about that as well. When you first come to Ashtanga, you're shocked by the, a lead primary series would be considered an advanced Vinyasa flow class,
Hmm.
a high level advanced Vinyasa flow class. Okay. But when you're so used to people doing what seems impossible, what happens psychologically? It's not so impossible anymore.
Yeah.
Subtly, your mind starts to realize that if they can do it, so if all these people can do it,
Then you can too. Yeah.
I have the same muscles they do,
Hmm.
you
And it's
know?
amazing what the body can do when you're consistent and you train and you keep working at it. Yeah, the body is incredible what it can do.
Yep. And it's the mind, it's all the mind. They
Yeah.
call that the Mysore magic, is like the Mysore magic is you walk in on your first day and you see people in the room like catching their ankles in a back bend or doing forward and back handsprings or leg behind the head. In your first day, you're like, oh, I'll never do that. But
Yeah.
then like
Bit
6 months,
intimidating.
then 6 months later, you're like, yeah, I think I could possibly, that's when the magic, you go, maybe I could possibly do that one day. Because
Hmm.
you're feeling your body change and your
Yeah.
mind is getting used to it. And so it becomes, the Ashtanga teachers, we don't, like I'm talking to you, Paula, that's how I talk to my students too. I don't change my voice. I don't do any we don't patronize our students or patronize. I don't know how you guys say it. I know different Americans say it different from Australians and English people, but we don't infantilize our students. We've got our students coming in, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're mothers, they're fathers. We're not going to coddle them. They didn't come to be coddled, right? We're going to work with them. And that's a lot of times Ashtanga teachers are seen as being very tough. It's not that we're tough, it's just that we don't coddle. We don't put on a fake teacher voice and read you poetry. There's no India music is playing, right? Like we're speaking to you like a fully capable adult. And that is the hardest part too about teaching Ashtanga sometimes because you start to recognize when the practice is working and the student is being triggered. So when a student is triggered, as a teacher, okay, it's working because it's getting to them.
Hmm.
The poison of the practice is working, right? And so as a teacher, that's your responsibility. And this is why it takes so long to be authorized because you also have to assist. It's like doing residency, right? You can't just teach, you have to assist. You have to work with a master teacher for a very long time as an assistant is a long road because of stuff like this. So when you have a student who is being super triggered by the practice, as a teacher, you have to be emotionally mature enough to know if that student is literally at their breaking point and pushing them any further, it doesn't need to happen today, or that they're literally at the breaking point that's going to give them a breakthrough.
Yeah. And
And you
that's
have to
important.
gauge that. Yeah, you
And
have to gauge that.
knowing that can only come from so much experience.
Yes. You're not going to learn that 200 hours. You're going to learn that through your own practice, first and foremost, your own experiences.
Yeah.
You can't teach them. And that's another difference between vinyasa flow. There are vinyasa flow teachers that will teach sequences that they themselves cannot do.
Wow. Yeah.
That is not allowed in Ashtanga. So that's why I said in our course, like, I have a few asana shots, pictures here and there, but it's not really important because I'm authorized. So I don't need to show you what I can do with my body, and it's not about me, it's about you.
Hmm.
David Greek, my original teacher, who's one of the certified guys, one of the guys with a PhD, I was at a workshop once that he was teaching an intensive, and some guy was asking about like Paschimottanasana, like some or Paschimottanasana, one of these postures. I remember it was one of the postures in the second series that's complicated, Karna Bandhasana or something. Doesn't matter the pose. And he was asking David about this posture, and they were having dialogue about it. And finally, the student says, "Well, can you show me?" And David goes, "I don't struggle with this posture. Why would I show you?" I don't need to show you because I don't struggle with it. And David is right. What good is it for me to show you what I can do with my body because I don't struggle with it?
Mhm.
This is about you. I'm authorized. You know I can do it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't
You
be
know
authorized if you couldn't do it.
I've hit it. So that's another difference too, is that by the accreditation alone, you know you're with somebody who has can do it, and by the by sheer virtue that they can do it, they've been through the trauma of learning it. They've been through that roller coaster ride of sweat, of soreness, of tears on the mat, of breaking down, of falling out of postures. You know how many times I've fallen out of a posture? You know how many times I've been bruised from I've been through it. I know this trail. I've done this trail multiple times, and so I can help you. You just have to trust me. And knowing that, and that also means knowing the students as well. So like I have some students that I know can take more pushing and pulling than others.
Yeah,
And sometimes it depends on like what they do for a living. Sometimes it depends on what their disposition, and that takes experience. And so that's just something a experience a vinyasa flow teacher just doesn't have. And so is there any other questions that it's so much, you guys, but I'm so excited. That's one thing I've been telling Paula, like the flip side of it is I have been very nervous to do this course because I want to make sure because I'm not there with you in person. I'm not there to put my hands on you in Ashtanga yoga. Our adjustments are not sweet and pleasant. We call them cranking. You get cranked. I used to laugh. Like, I know my teacher's feet. If my teacher, who's since passed away, Sharat, if you did a lineup of a bunch of Indian men with their feet, I could pick my teacher's feet out because you're upside down. You
mhm.
see these feet coming towards you. And I used to laugh and tell my students when I would see Sharat's feet coming towards me, the Jaws theme song would play in my head. Dun 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 dun. Because I knew I was about to get cranked. I knew I was
Yeah.
about to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And but you get used to it and you expect it because that's what brings the breakthroughs. And it's not nice and polite like other forms of yoga. You have to adjust people in Ashtanga. There's no other way. There's no if, ands, or buts about it. You have to be able to do that. And so, I know you have to hop off soon, Paula, but is there anything you're still confused about or you think our students are still confused about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just so fascinated by it, and it's so interesting to go deeper into it, and learning about how it is so different to Western yoga. I mean, it's like they just took like a sugared version and just popped it available for people, and yeah, so it's really different. But yeah, I've been looking forward to you being able to do this course and putting it up and going through everything. So we're giving everybody was it about 10-15 days or so to kind of go through everything, and then we're going to be doing a call with Brice, and I'm not sure if Todd's joining or not, but
We'll see.
we'll
Hopefully he will
see.
join. Yeah,
Yeah.
I also want to start the chanting. Todd might do it on this upcoming, doing the chanting of the count and the postures, because that's very important. Hearing the vibration of the name starts the healing process.
Yes. Yeah, I can
Um,
definitely feel
that
that. Yeah.
starts it. So if you're going to yoga class where the ladies, the or the man are saying, forward fold or triangle pose or chair pose, please reconsider.
Yeah,
My name is
because
Brice, not Lucy.
yeah, but the thing is that Sanskrit's such a beautiful language, and it's those words and those sounds, those frequencies that are produced when you say those sounds, that's where the healing happens, and it doesn't.
Where it starts, yeah.
Saying the chair pose just does not have the same effect as what the Sanskrit version is. It's the same with the healing soundscapes that I create. It's like it's not going to have the same effect if you're not doing it the correct way. So
Right.
yeah, I just think it's very powerful. And chanting, I love it because it's just the way when you make that sound with your own voice, it's very, very powerful. And it's so fascinating, just to add this in as just a fun fact. In the Anna book that I've been reading on my channel, she talks about when she was giving birth, and she was also a midwife. to other women, and she would make sounds with her voice to help women when they're giving birth, to help with relieve pain, as pain relief. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just mind blowing. It's incredible.
They
This,
know this is ancient wisdom.
yeah,
Yes.
it is ancient
Yeah.
wisdom, and this is what we have been, so much of this knowledge has been hidden from us, and there is so much power in sound. I mean, sound, that's why I'm so fascinated with it, because the things that it can do. So I'm really, really excited to, because I want to deep dive into the course. I've just popped it up yesterday or the day before on Fusion Body Studio, and I'm looking forward to going through it before our call. And then on our call, we can ask you any questions we have and anything more we want to know. So anybody who's not a member yet and you want to learn more about Ashtanga Yoga and you want to talk to Brice in real life, like, well, over Zoom, in real time, please join up. Do a 7 free trial, 7-day free trial. Oh my God, I can't talk. And even if you find that it's not for you, even if you just want to learn just about the Ashtanga yoga bit, I mean, just join up for the 7-day free trial and learn about that. It's so important to know about this knowledge, and to have the chance to be able to talk to you is really special, because you are one of those very rare people that has been authorized. So there's not very many of you around. Out of 7 billion people, there's only 50
There's
of,
like five, no, 50, there's 50 certified. So 50
yes, 50
PhDs
certified, yeah.
authorized. There's about 500 of us who are
Okay,
authorized,
okay, yeah, yeah.
which is still a small number. And we are
It's
not,
yeah, it's not very
listen,
much
I
known.
can't make anybody a teacher. I can have people assist me, which
Mhm.
helps people become teachers. But in order for someone to be a teacher, they have to also go back to India and
Yeah.
enroll. And right now, at this point, back when Todd was going, you could come as a beginner, but now you can't because there's so many people. So you have to have a letter of recommendation from another authorized teacher. And so Todd and I are more than happy for our student. We encourage our students, if this is something, because some people, and listen, going to India to study doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to be authorized.
Mhm.
So people who want to go, I would say out of all the people that go to India to study, maybe 40% of them are authorized. Some people just end up going because it's their own sadhana, it's their own devotion, and it
Mhm.
amplifies their practice, and they just want to study with the Param Guru, and that's part of their journey. They don't want to actually teach, and that's so for people who want to go to India. Todd and I are more than happy to write a letter of recommendation for people to go and to get into the school and now study with Saraswati, because my teacher has passed away. There's only certain people. There is Manju Joyce in California. He is Patabi Joyce's son. He lives in California now, but he also can teach and can authorize. So if you
Awesome.
don't want to go all the way to India, you can go to California
Well,
if you're
that's
not.
good. Mhm.
Although I will say there is
But I
something
mean,
about going to India. Like
yeah, the
India
proper
kind of becomes
experience.
it's part of the teaching as well, especially for a Westerner. When I'm there with a bunch of Australians, Europeans, Canadians, Americans, English people. It's all, all this white people, Russians. The Russians are the funniest because under communism, they didn't have any sense of religion or spirituality because of the state. And so they are my favorite. I lived with a bunch of Russians one year, and they are my favorite because they're so excited because they just had it, you know, we take it for granted, right? That we have access to information where they had
Mhm.
nothing in Russia. And so they're so
Wow.
excited to be able to
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
learn, freely learn that it's living with them was very motivating for me. Like days when I was like tired and I was like, why am I doing this to myself? I would just
Mhm.
be with them and how excited they were to actually, and it would remind me like what a privilege it is to actually
Yeah.
never have experience living in America or living in a country where that's never happened. Knock on wood, that never happens here. And so being in India, long story short, you can go to California, that's great. But if you really want to challenge yourself, go to India because as a Westerner, that's a big lesson in comfort because we
Mhm.
are so comfortable in the Western world. And
Oh
there are
yeah.
just things that happen in India that you have no control over. Power goes out. Who are you going to call? Like you just have to wait. Getting water on my first trip to India, there's a guy that would bring us our water and I bought big things of water because you can't drink the tap water. And I was like out of water and I called the guy to deliver more water. And he was like, yes, madam, 5 minutes. Well, 5 minutes in the Western world in America is like 2 minutes. 5 minutes in India is 2 days. And so you have to learn these things. And when you're in that
Wow.
situation, it's a trial by fire. You have to learn that sometimes the grocery store I go to, there's no cash register. They do it all by hand. So you have to wait at the counter for them to calculate. You have to go to Davaraj market and you have to like figure out like how to maneuver the market. There's just so much in India that's so different
Yeah.
that it becomes a part of that learning experience of how to surrender and how to just be okay with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's a part of it. My funniest story, I'll end this on a funny story if you don't mind, of being uncomfortable. So in Mysore, because I know you have to leave, and I'll see if I can find the picture, and if I can find the picture, I'll send it to you. Maybe we can put it on the thumbnail or something. There's monkeys, everywhere. Monkeys are like squirrels for us. Like they're everywhere. And you think, oh, cute monkeys. No, they're monkeys scare the crap out of me. Like if I
They
see a
scare
pack
me
of
too.
monkeys, Todd has some funny stories about the monkeys in India. But I would always like even the street dogs are a little freaked out about the monkeys. They can be kind of violent, the monkeys.
Wow, yeah, yeah.
So there is this Mysore is it's a small town in India, but it's a famous town. It's a town that's full of like universities. It's known for its scholarship. There's also like the Maharaja's palace is there, and there's a mountain, a hill called Chumundi Hill. This is a very sacred Nandi. The bull is halfway up. You can drive to the top. There's temples. You can walk. There's 1,000 steps. You can walk up to the top at daybreak. That's part of a moon day one day where we don't practice on moon days. A friend and I went and did it. We did the 1,000 stair walk in the early morning hours as the sun was coming up. And those old grandmas in their saris were going up way faster than we were. That was quite an experience. And I do recommend if you are there doing that at least once, just doing that at least once. But this one day, we were up at the top of Chumundi Hill. We had taken a rickshaw up there. One of my friends was doing a photo shoot for asana shots, and I went with him. And another friend of mine went, we were all there. And you get to the point where there was a little stand and they had like Fantas. And sometimes just having a Fanta or a Coca-Cola is just such a luxury when
Heaven.
you're there. It's heaven. And so I was so excited. And it's not about, it's super cheap for us, right? Like if you're in the Western world, you're a millionaire in India. It's super cheap. I went and I got a Fanta. And I was just, it was an orange Fanta. I was just so excited. I don't drink Fantas. Like that's not a drink I drink in the
Yeah.
United States. But I was this orange, it was just so good. And I put my Fanta down. I was holding it down. I was talking to my friend. And all of a sudden I feel something taking the Fanta out of my hand. And I turn around
Okay.
and a one-armed monkey was drinking that Fanta. My friend that I was with, I'm not going to dox him. I don't want to say his name publicly. I'm so tempted to, was laughing so hard. And I was like, I am not even going to try to take, you can have
No,
that Fanta.
you can keep the
You can
Vanta.
have it.
Oh my goodness.
I can go buy another one. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. That's like 10 cents for me. So I will see if I can find that picture. And actually, it wasn't me that took the picture. It was my friend that was with me that took the picture
Yeah.
of this monkey, this ballsy. I mean, he had big cojones. It was one arm. Like, don't know how it lost its arm, just chugging that Fanta. And that's a lesson you have to learn. Don't mess with the
Well,
monkeys. Like,
they're like that in Bali. So I've been to Bali, which is very popular. Indonesia is very popular for Australians to go because it's just a few hours away, especially from
yeah.
Perth. It's only like 3 hours. And oh my God, when I went over there, the monkeys, they scared me so much because they just, yep, they're helping themselves to everything. You have to be so careful because
Yeah.
you can't put anything down because they will grab it. They will,
And
and
they're vicious. You
yeah,
think about rabies, you think about they're vicious, and so you don't fight a monkey. You just let
no,
it. I mean,
you just let
you
it
have
take.
bars on the windows. Like when you rent an apartment in India, there's bars on the windows, and you're like, why? And then
Mhm.
you realize very quickly it's because of the monkey. So you can open your windows, and you don't have to worry about the monkeys coming in.
Yeah.
So many stories. Todd has a story of monkeys breaking into his apartment and fighting, where he had to lock himself in the bedroom and wait for their fighting to be
Yes,
over to
he
leave.
shared that on the Fusion Body Studio.
It's what one person I know left their yoga. They had opened the window and opened the bars up and they had left their yoga mat out to kind of dry from the sweat. And they came back and two monkeys were like procreating on the yoga mat, like on top of it. And they had to go and like they were like, I had to try to find a manduka because we use very expensive mats in Ashtanga, which is also a thing too, guys. If you're really invested in yoga, I would definitely suggest. I'm not sponsored by Manduka. I would love to be though, but I'm not. Mandukas, their mats are like $100 a pop, but they last forever. It's a lifetime guarantee and they're really solid. So I always tell people if you're really invested, I would eventually get a nice mat because the cheaper mats are gonna
Yeah,
they're
they
not as good and they you
well,
end up buying
Biscoff has
multiple a
just
year.
destroyed mine. She's just been chewing at it.
Well, actually, it's so funny, Paula, because your birthday is not that far after mine. And I was actually
Yeah.
considering if you wanted me to send you for your birthday a Manduka mat.
Oh, that's so
So
sweet of you.
that was something I was thinking about doing for you because it makes a huge difference. It really does make a huge difference in your practice when you have a good mat and you can use it. It's got a lifetime guarantee. We have multiple Mandukas here because we have them at the Shala as well. It's what I practice on as a Manduka. If people have more questions about that, I can show my mat. We can come and talk about mat. It's something simple like that if that's something people
Yeah,
want to know about. Just like,
we can cover that
gear
for
that is
sure.
really good because we're modern, so we can use that. But no, my friend had to get a new Manduka because little monkey babies.
Wow. Oh, well, I would love to keep chatting to you about all the fun monkey stories,
I
but I have to run
know.
off. But yeah, for anybody that wants to join us, please join us at Fusion Body Studio, and we are going to go into a deep dive into Ashtanga Yoga and learn more all about it.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for everybody for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Bye.